Mackenzie Shirilla is probably one of the most alarming, complex individuals I've done an analysis on in a long time. I know a lot of people are really alarmed by her body language and her psychology, so I'm going to be breaking down exactly that with some of the red flags that I noticed, but I'm letting you know now I am not a black and white kind of person. I see everything with spiritual eyes. I have a lot of spiritual discernment, so today I'm going to kind of go over the body language, the psychology, and some of the spiritual oppression, the demonic oppression, and potential bloodline curses and generational curses that are on her and her family, and a lot of this is going to be very disturbing. Of course, all this is alleged and based on my own opinion, but buckle up because this shit's about to get wild. Now, the first term that I want to discuss with you all is called enmeshment. Now, the dynamic between Mackenzie and her mother is deeply disturbing, and a lot of people are focused on what Mackenzie has said in her interview, but I think a lot of more eyes need to be on the fact that her mother and her have had a secret coded language that they speak fluently in for years. So it's got me like, the question isn't what are they hiding from police? It's what the fuck have they been hiding their whole lives? Because why in the hell would you have a secret language? To keep it short and sweet, enmeshment is basically when a parent is overly involved in their child's life, have a toxic understanding of healthy boundaries. What is so disturbing about this enmeshment dynamic is why would Natalie want to have a private world reality with her daughter? And I'm gonna be honest, my imagination has kind of ran wild with that.
And I never told my side of the story.
Classic case of infantilization. The inward crossing of her arms is an indication that she's intentionally appearing to be inferior. Also, the controlled monotone tone, and the way she keeps batting her eyes downward in this scene, to me, classic sociopathy, intentionally trying to appear docile. Infantilization is basically where the individual is trying to make it seem like they are inferior, they're docile, they are not capable of committing a crime or doing anything evil or heinous. When she's asked about arguing with Dom, she gives this little smirk with the left side of her face. This is huge. In my opinion, this is her body's involuntary response to reliving the adrenaline from the arguments. And the reason why this is so concerning is because, in my opinion, Mackenzie's baseline, based on everything that I've watched, her left side of her face is what seems to be her acceptance side. And the right side of her face seems to be how she responds with dismissive denial. Basically, things that she approves of, she responds with her left, and things that she does not approve of, she responds with her right. And that smirk, to me, is almost synonymous with someone reliving a happy memory. And if you're reliving and enjoying the adrenaline you got off of arguments, that is a clear indication that you're a sociopath. I think this family is heavily involved in witchcraft. If the father isn't, I'll give him grace. He might not be. He may just be ignorant to it. But this mother and this daughter dynamic are very dark. It's very demonic. And I'm going to explain to you what I think Mackenzie's attempt was in this crash. Now, we have all heard the clip where Mackenzie and her mom are on the phone and they're talking about how the news has broadcasted this all the way in England, and they're basically rejoicing about it.
It was published in England.
What?
Yes.
Stick with me here. I'm about to get deep. Other than just being so out of touch with reality and psychopathic, why else would Mackenzie and her mom, in a spiritual sense, be rejoicing in that? Who here has heard of the crossroad ritual? Essentially, what a crossroad ritual is, basically a sacrifice that you make. She was buckled. They were not. Out of all the tragedies that happen in this world every single day, why did the flicks of nets decide to give her all this fame, all this attention? Because when you do a crossroad ritual, you sacrifice a life. You come close to sacrificing yours, hence crossroads, in exchange for power, money, fame, whatever it is that you're wanting. I don't think that this is outlandish to hypothesize on at all. Especially considering that we had the alleged friend that actually said that Mackenzie was an active practicer of witchcraft and voodoo. The fucking psychological and spiritual analysis that I have done on Mackenzie Shirilla and her family is honestly unhinged, and I have come across some really crazy stuff and some really wild receipts that I need to show you. And I'm warning you now, if you are not a spiritual person, this probably is not going to interest you, but this shit is about to get very deep, so buckle up. And the dark, demonic, feminine energy is so prominent and so complex on her and her family that this requires multiple parts. So here's part 2. You cannot convince me that this family is not either involved in witchcraft or has some heavy generational bloodline curses, and maybe they're just walking around in dark blindness. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of more leaning towards the first one. Between quite literally watching different spirits manifest over this family's body and then finding out what their name actually means in gematria, and then finding out about the coordinates to the crash site. Oh, there's just so much. Both ex-girlfriends have come forward and admitted to basically being in love and seduced by Mackenzie. especially Jews who just outright defended her. Cheyenne, aka Fro, who used believed when talking about Mackenzie in past tense, which leads me to believe that she is about to come out with proof that she actually doesn't believe Mackenzie. But either way, this goes to show you what dark, demonic Jezebel spirit has a chokehold over Mackenzie. And let's point out the fact how sociopathic it is that she targeted women who were literally about to leave prison so that way they would go out and tell the world how innocent and lovely she is. And in this clip I'm about to show you, you can actually see what I feel like is a spirit that comes right over Mackenzie. It's an instant change. Right here. So going back to my last video when I brought up the crossroads ritual, and this is involving the triple goddess Hecate, keep in mind that Hecate statues and offerings were traditionally left at three-way crossroads specifically. I kid you not, and shout out to the person that mentioned this on my last video. I looked up the coordinates to the crash. You can actually see that the area is still under construction. I will insert that screen recording here. 1, 2, and 3. It literally gives me the chills. It is so heavy. It's so heavy. And Fro actually admitted that Mackenzie is using a pendulum in prison to contact Dom.
Pictures, that's where it comes into play, and that pendulum came into play. I know I already talked about it, but this is the moment where it happened to us. She's talking about that pendulum, and it's swinging, and Dom's dancing like he's on her side.
And I really want to address the boom shirt that Steve was wearing during his interview.
She saw me, and I go, "Did you do it?" She looked at me and goes, "No," and I know it right now.
I'm telling you right now that in my opinion, Steve is 100% possessed by a mocking spirit. And I think that really draws context to why he was wearing the boom shirt, that it goes way beyond irony, because if you know anything about a mocking spirit, they do not just destroy morality. They destroy the consciousness of the individual and they mock destruction. Boom, car crash. I mean, to me, I feel like it's so obvious. And mocking spirits reveal themselves through inversion. They have a complete disregard for human life. I have so much to cover in this series. There's so much more information that I have found, but I really want to talk about what the name Shirilla actually means in gematria. So I actually looked up the name Shirilla, and it's actually like a really, really rare name, and it comes from the Slovakians. Then it was Americanized and translated into Shirilla. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it correctly because I don't want to butcher it. But 88 in numerology is actually associated with power, materialism, which we know Mackenzie is super materialistic, dominance, karma, authority, ambition, and control. I cannot stop thinking about the crossroads ritual involving the triple goddess Hecate because of the way this case has blown up and the way Mackenzie is just loathing and wallowing in the fame. And it's not just here outside in the real world, it's in prison too. She's a superstar in there. And I want to be very clear when I say this. This is all based on my own opinion. This is alleged information. I do not know this family personally. These are not facts. This is my opinion. Part 3, I'm going to be doing a deep spiritual analysis on the mom and what I think the warm milk means, and going back to the roots on how I believe Mackenzie started behaving this way in the first place. And unfortunately, I think it's pretty twisted. And I am actively working on part 3 because there's so much. I thought part 2 was insane. You might want to buckle up. July 31st, 2022 is the day that the crash happened. The moon was also in waxing crescent, which looks like this. In the early hours of that morning, it would have been completely black. Going back to the crossroads ritual involving Hecate, Hecate is the ancient Greek goddess of magic, witchcraft, the night, ghosts, and crossroads. The maiden stage of the triple goddess symbolizes youth, raw potential, fierce, unyielding, independent. Manifestation of fast momentum. Waxing moon is time to pull things towards you, build momentum, initiating aggressive action. Magically, it is a period of high acceleration. Energy is building rapidly from nothing into something powerful. Also, endings, curses, and banishing unwanted ties.
That's weird.
I love you. I got in trouble last night or this morning.
Why?
I got in trouble.
By who?
Mommy got mad at me.
For what?
So that must mean it's...
Mommy, I want you to take note of the repetition here and that cackling laughing. I told you guys in my last video that I am fully convinced that Steve is oppressed or possessed by what's called a mocking spirit. Mocking spirits in ancient spiritual beliefs and traditional spiritual beliefs are known for cackling out loud, repeating themselves constantly, laughing inappropriately, but especially provoking emotions and reactions, because that is what feeds them. I can't decide if this spiritual possession / oppression comes from the mother, the father, or probably both, honestly. You can see it manifesting over their bodies. And Steve definitely has a tendency to provoke her. I've seen a lot of text messages between the two of them where he's talking down to her and then he's really cool with her the next minute.
She's a dumb 18-year-old that just turned 18.
And then shout out to the chick who actually put their text messages in a transcript on Google Sheets. I'm not going to read all of these, but I want you to really pay attention to some of the things that I'm going to say in this. So Mackenzie's texting, "Are you up? Is mom up? Can I stay till 2:30? Dad, can you make me some warm milk?" And then they have this weird little small talk. He's like super cool, super chill, says, "Watch what you drink and smoke. Call me if you need me. I'll be there," basically. She responds with, "Okay, XOXO. Bam, out of nowhere, he flips the script and says, "You are not to spend any night at the boys' house ever. This will never happen again. Are we clear?" Peep this. "Any idea when you'll be home? I'm picking you up." Mackenzie says, "Hurry up, I'm in pain." I'm going to be very careful on what I'm laying down here. But right here, she says, "Can you rub my feet?" I couldn't find the actual original text messages. I know I saw them with my own eyes. I searched and searched tonight to find them, but I couldn't find them. But this is exactly the transcript of what I saw. Who remembers when Dominic said, "Yeah, you let a dude your feet for money," like 6 months ago? Are you picking up what I'm laying down here? Mackenzie shows indicators of deep early childhood trauma. In my opinion, there's something there. These demonic oppressions, sociopathic tendencies, it does not come out of nowhere. Not protective, not disciplinary, but almost possessive over your daughter. This girl, and this girl right here are completely different people being operated by completely separate entities. So let's put the spiritual stuff on pause for a second. What the hell is warm milk? Well, I'm going to give you my theory. Well, we all know that Mackenzie was involved in S-work. We also know that Mackenzie exchanged photos for money. I want you to follow me here. If a client requested a certain type of shot, what prop would she need? That's what I think. I know a lot of people said that warm milk helps to come down from a high. When you stack this context on top of everything else, the girl wouldn't eat a McChicken. Matter of fact, I think it's very possible that Mackenzie struggled with consuming anything at all, which is also a giant red flag. Where the hell did that come from? People don't just wake up and have that either. That comes from trauma. I had originally planned to do a whole breakdown on the mom, but I actually, as of today, have changed my stance and my opinion on the mother. The series is going to be 5 parts. There's 2 more parts. In part 4, I'm going to be breaking down motive, receipts that I have for the motive, and why I think it was not just Mackenzie involved. At the end of this video, you are going to understand why I believe this family has been hiding something, maybe a lot of things, for a long time. I have some receipts. Now, I want to be clear before we get into this. Everything I have is documentation from the court, public record, body cam footage, and public phone call audio. I'm not making anything up. I'm not reaching. I'm just asking questions that I think a lot of people are afraid to ask. This is the body cam footage of when Natalie and Steve came to the hospital and they're being told that Mackenzie, Dom, and Davion were in an accident. I want you to watch Steve.
I guess now I'm here to a building 286 because one that we don't know, his name's Jacob. Does anyone know Jacob?
Let's run that back. He very much looked at Natalie before displaying his reaction. To me, this says a lot. Now, the officer says, "Does anyone know a Jacob?" But our good old crisis manager, Natalie, clocks that shit at a half second and says, stop, let him talk.
Anyone know a Jacob?
No, stop, let him talk.
Excuse me, sir, that officer most definitely said Jacob. Why did your brain immediately go to Dom? In my opinion, a father that was genuinely confused, he would say, "We don't know a Jacob." Would not immediately connect the wrong name to Dom. Natalie was not telling homeboy to be patient. She was telling him to shut the hell up. And then watch Natalie's performative confusion. I also want you to be watching Steve, how he completely stops showing emotion and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he turns those theatrics right back on.
So are drugs.
Dom is dead? Dom is dead? Is that what you're saying to me? Look at me. Is Dom dead?
There's no easy way for me to say anything right now, man. This is a serious situation.
Dom with curly. It's the same Dom. Maybe it's a different Dom. It could be a different Dom.
Girl, which other Dom do you know? That is far from the most chilling part. Because later on down the road, after Mackenzie goes to prison, Steve's gonna get on the phone with her.
Hard that they all disappear. That's all I said. And if I had a magic wand, I wouldn't go back and help Davian first. I'd make everybody else disappear.
Let's run that back one more time.
I wouldn't go back and help Davian first.
He said, and I quote, "I wouldn't go back and save Davian first. Not I would stop the crash. Not I would save those boys. Not even I would save my daughter from this." Specifically, out of everyone, he calls out Davian. Davian Flanagan, the friend in the back seat. Why is Davian the name that came out of his mouth? Not the boy that was dating his daughter? In psychology, there's something called a Freudian slip. This is where your subconscious tells the truth that your conscious mind is trying to hide. Steve's subconscious just told on itself. And then I found something in the court documents that literally made my stomach drop. Because it turns out that Davian was on Mackenzie's mind too. This is not an opinion, this is not a hypothesis, this is a court document. Shirilla had significant injuries to her leg and arm. One of the first things she said was, "How is Davian?" Not "How is Dominic?" Not "Is my boyfriend okay?" Now I'm just gonna let you sit with that. Because when I line this up with what Steve said on that phone call, their body cam footage at the hospital, and what I'm about to show you next, a pattern starts to form that I cannot unsee. So in this phone call, Mackenzie is on the phone with Natalie, and she's reading a message from her dad. The subject of the text, "I love you, please respond." Sir, the subject line alone. And then she starts reading, "They or did Jim ask you if you wanted a..." And Natalie, our crisis manager, shuts it down.
Dad said, here's Dad's message. It's, "Hey, please respond. Love you." And then he said, "That's the subject." And then he says, "Hey, did you see my last message? If not, did Jim ask you actually if you wanted to jury trial?"
Stop. Just stop.
What do you mean stop? It's already out there.
Ooh, hold on, I'm blacking out. Ugh.
And then he said, "It's important. Love you lots and lots."
I slowed this down in CapCut. And when you slow it down, you can very clearly hear her say what Natalie is trying to hide.
Jim asked you actually if you wanted to jury trial.
Stop.
Jury trial. And Natalie doesn't just hush her, she almost blacks out. Her words, "I almost blacked out." In my opinion, this is not a mother who is just nervous. This is a crisis manager who just almost watched her client blow the whole operation. But here's what's really, really crazy. Natalie goes on like this podcast or something. I don't even know what it was. Somebody asks her the same exact question about a bench trial versus a jury trial. And what happens next is really sus.
Says, why did Mackenzie select the bench trial rather than the jury trial? This may have already been addressed. Apologies. I was late to the stream. If you just want to address that real quick again for good old Kristen from Manhattan.
That's okay. Mackenzie did want a jury trial. She was kind of directed to pick a bench trial. And
Stop.
She was kind of strong-armed into a bench trial. And being a traumatized 17-year-old. I did already.
What the lawyer did.
I did. Well, okay,
the lawyer did what the lawyer did.
Now I want you to really think about why the jury trial conversation is the one thing that makes this family absolutely panic. Especially Steve. Steve, baby, we see you. Jury trial means 12 people looking at everything, all the evidence. Bench trial means one judge, focused on legal facts only. Jury asks questions that a judge doesn't. A judge digs into backgrounds, family dynamics, into why a 17-year-old child is so fucking emotionally dysregulated and sexually provocative. It's like Steve needs the scope of this case very narrow. I had a whole different thing planned for this episode, but I came across this today and it hit me from left field, and when I put it all together, I was shooketh. Shooketh. I don't think this series is gonna be 5 parts anymore. It's probably gonna be like 10.
Hello, my name's Kat, and if you don't know, I was in prison with Mackenzie Shirilla. Don't believe me? Hold on, I got you. Let's fact check. So we got Miss Shirilla here, institution, Ohio Reformatory for Women, admission date, August 31st, 2023, okay. Now we have me, institution, Ohio Reformatory for Women, admission date, April 10th, 2024. All right, got that clear. Let's talk about the documentary that just came out on Netflix, The Crash, about Mackenzie, because oh my God, do I have some shit to say. Foremost, I want to shout out Netflix for making it and filming it in a way that is very, very evident to make Mackenzie and her family look like complete dumbasses. When I was in prison with her, it was at the beginning of her sentence. And the Mackenzie that came on to the Netflix was not the same Mackenzie that I witnessed in prison. I am so glad that they made sure to throw that clip in there that shows her lawyer was there with her, because that's the only reason Mackenzie even went on Netflix. Was one, because she thrived for fame even while I was in prison with her. She thought that she was going to be the princess of the prison. And she also went on there thinking that it was going to help her with another appeal that's going to get denied. We understand that, correct? Let me tell you something. Mackenzie Shirilla did not walk around that prison yard with an ounce of remorse. Mackenzie Shirilla did not walk around that prison yard thinking about those lost loved ones that she claimed to think about every single day. Mackenzie Shirilla walked around prison thinking, how is she going to get in with the cool kids, which in prison, Mackenzie Shirilla did not relate to them at all. But as you can see by this new Mackenzie Shirilla that just popped on the Netflix documentary, she's really trying hard. She's had to get harder. She doesn't even talk the same. The way that she talked in this documentary is not even how her voice sounds. I'm just being honest. She's got a rasp to her voice, and that might be because in there she's starting to do rugs, which I've heard through the grapevine and other inmates that she is, which is what it is. It's bound to happen. You're in there for life. When I was in there with Mackenzie, all she cared about was doing her makeup, walking the yard with her 1 or 2 friends that were also very similar to her, young girls, social media influencer wannabes, thinking that it was a high school like popularity contest. Now in the documentary you can tell, because it's been a couple years by now, you can see she's been broken down. You can see that she was starting to hang out with the lifers, which are more, I don't want to say institutionalized, but yeah, institutionalized and like harder, I guess you could say, and clicked up with each other. And you can tell just by the looks, and I hate to be like whatever, but as somebody who was in prison and in prison with her, you can tell. Mackenzie's story when she was in, like when I was in prison with her, was that she was high on shrooms when this accident occurred. And it had never came out in any documents that she had gotten her blood tested for the shrooms, because it's hard to test for. A lot of states don't. They showed in this documentary that they sent it to an out-of-state lab to get tested, and there was only THC found. So now, like, girl, I already knew that you were lying, but now it's like you're just making up a huge story with no evidence to even try to back you up. So you look even more guilty. You don't care, like, that you took these lives. She walked around, never saw her cry. Are you kidding me? If I was in there, she walks around thinking she's gonna get out. Now, like I said in this documentary, after her appeals getting denied and stuff, I think it's kind of dawning on her that, baby girl, you're finna sit down. You better get in where you fit in, Shirilla. And Dom, and if you think Mackenzie going to prison was the end of her being in toxic relationships, let me tell you something. She was in like 4 in the short span that I was in there with her inside the prison walls. She thrives for that. She lives for that. And her mom, I'm sorry, Mackenzie was like full-fledged, old enough to know what she did, but her bozo ass parents fed into this 100%. Even in prison, Mackenzie's batshit crazy mother was funding her prison lifestyle and making it as comfortable as possible. Mackenzie had everything you can imagine inside prison and more. All the makeup, all the like limited item stuff that like you have to buy, Cash App this, Cash App that. Mackenzie had it. Her mom enables her. Her family enables her like no other. They see no wrong. They're delusional, and Mackenzie has to get it from them. And then the saddest part of it all, which is already evident, is like, of course, Dominic, and of course Davian, both of them. And if you notice, and I can say this as a mom myself, the mothers of either one of them like refuse to be on any of these. But Mackenzie's mother never turns an eye to a chance to be on social media, on a podcast, on a documentary when it comes to Shirilla, because she could care less about those victims. Mackenzie's gonna have a hard life. They don't have any air conditioning in prison and no RW. It's gonna be a hot summer. And she's got 15, and baby, she's not gonna get parole on that first time. She's in there bullshitting. People have told me, it's in her records, her disciplinary reports. They're not gonna give her that. Her victims' families are going to show up. It is going to be shown in her next appeal that the clip where she is literally asking her lawyer, do you think I did too much? Do you think I don't want to be forcing it too hard? Like, girl, this is an act to you. You're just trying to get out and you're not going to. It's ridiculous. I have so much more like lore and tea when it comes to being in prison with her. But my mind is spinning and I don't want this to be a 20-minute video, so I'll probably make a second part. But that's my take on the Crash Netflix documentary from somebody who was in prison with Shirilla the kid. So y'all want to know what I did to get sent to prison with Mackenzie Shirilla? Okay, let's get into it. Okay, a little foreshadowing. My crime also resulted in a car crash, but not to the extreme or the devastation of Mackenzie's at all. Before I get into this, I want to say I take full accountability. This happened 7 years ago, and it didn't catch up to me until 3 to 4 years later, and I was young, stupid, and careless. And I'm a completely different person now. So in 2019, I was 20 years old and I was making some really careless decisions. I was running around with some really not great people who were also making the same decisions, and I was completely broken. In the midst of running around with all these people, a lot of people were selling and buying, fill in the blank. And for some reason, that was so glamorized to me that I was attracted to it. I was filling something inside of me that was empty, but I was around a lot of those people. I had misdemeanor warrants out of a suburb outside of Nashville. I agreed to ride to Detroit with some of these not great people and do I told them from the very beginning that I was not going to ride this car. Now I knew that there were rugs in this car. I knew that there were booms in the car, and I told them, I said, I'm not driving. I'll go with y'all, but I'm not driving because I'm not going to take the fall if anything happens. Foreshadowing again. I knew that these people were probably dangerous, but I just didn't care. I didn't love myself. I didn't care about myself. I didn't care about anything that happened. We set off from Nashville to Detroit, Michigan. We managed to make it all the way from Nashville to Northern Ohio. And at that point, they asked me to drive. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. Fine, I'll drive. We made it this far, no problems. I think we're cool, you feel me? So we pull into a gas station, college town, if you know, you know. Nobody around. We fill up the gas tank. And I think this was a God thing because I don't really know what was going to end up happening in Detroit to me or to any of us. I don't know what their intentions were. I get in the driver's seat. Before I pull out, there's cops behind me. And I'm like, oh, you feel me? I'm like, bro, what do I do? What do I do? And they're like, keep going, keep going, keep going. In my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going down. I don't know. I've never been in a high-speed chase. Like, this is not GTA for real. I'm not with it for real. Whatever. So that's what I do, though. And I took the police on a high-speed chase from, we'll say, around Toledo, Ohio, all the way to Detroit. So I went through 4 counties and I went through 2 states. They tried to deploy 2 spike strips and they failed. I'm not sure how. They had us marked armed and dangerous because when they ran the tags, the car came up as carjacked. Mind you, these people had this car when I met them. So we get to Detroit and I hear a loud boom. I thought it was a helicopter. The way that it sounded, I said, are those the helicopters? Mind you, I'm going like over 100 miles per hour. And they were like, no, that was the tire. So at that point in my mind, it had registered like, oh, we're gonna crash, because I can't press on the brakes. I'm on the interstate. There's cars everywhere. If I press on the brakes on 3 tires, we're gonna spin out, like, guaranteed. As soon as I'm like, I don't know, I just let off the gas, and we spin out 4 times and flip into a median. So instantly the cops come. They have their big pull us out the car. We're going to jail. We're going to jail. We all go to jail in Detroit. I had been to jail at this point before for like petty stuff in, I guess what you would consider a nice jail in the suburbs, and now I'm going to jail in the D. Like, so stupid. Could have hurt so many people. I'm so grateful that I didn't. So then I get to Detroit. I bond out. Okay. A year later, I'm in Florida on vacation. We get pulled over. They tell me I have to go to Ohio. I have warrants in Ohio. I'm being extradited to Ohio. They extradite me to Ohio. It took me 7 days to get from jail in Florida to jail in Ohio. They charged me with failure to comply with policing law officer in the 3rd degree. They said I put the entire state of Ohio at risk. My bond was $50,000. It took me a month to bond out. I bonded out. They knew that I was not from Ohio, so we were all under the impression like I could go back to Tennessee, where I'm from, and come back for court. So I bonded out and went back to Tennessee. Continued to live a not great life. I'm gonna be very honest. I struggled, I partied, I was still hanging around not great people, I was still doing not great things. I went to look online to see when my court date was. They had revoked my bond because I went out of state. I said, I'm not going to court, catch me when you can. Then, months go by. I end up meeting my daughter's dad. I end up getting pregnant. I end up having like a come to Jesus moment with myself where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep this baby. I'm gonna get my life around. I'm gonna quit doing all this. Ended up catching a new charge in Tennessee right before I found out I was pregnant. Didn't know that I got charged with this. That's another story for another time. Anyway, went on with my pregnancy, got my life together to the best of my ability with warrants in another state, and had my daughter. 6 weeks later, I was out downtown with some of my friends and was arrested by like 10 bounty hunters for charges in Nashville that I didn't know I had. I'm knowing I have to go to Ohio and answer to my charges there, and I wasn't gonna be able to make bond. So I sat in jail, county jail in Nashville for 18 months. Ended up pleading out to something there, getting extradited to prison in Ohio. Went up, was in county there for maybe 2 weeks, got sentenced to 18 months in prison there. Got shipped out the next week. Was in admissions, went through prison. Did my time, and then went to the halfway house. So I went to prison for taking the police on a high-speed chase. Now, I was in prison. Yes, I was in prison with Mackenzie Shirilla. We've established that. Yes, I'm thriving. I'm living my best life. I've gotten my life completely on track. I'm a mother, I'm a student, and I'm an employee. And yeah, I think everything happens for a reason. I learned some valuable lessons. It took that is what it took for me to get my shit together, because I always thought like, oh, I'm gonna get away with it. I can get away with everything. I'll never get like in big girl trouble. And then I got in big girl trouble, like all at once. And I was taken away from my biggest blessing in the world, which is my daughter. And I never want to feel that pain ever again. So I make sure I do everything in my power to be the best version of myself and be a better version of myself than I was the day before, because I will never walk through the door of a county jail or prison again, and I stand on that. Okay, enough speculation. I have all 58 pages of Mackenzie Shirilla's conduct reports, write-ups, and disciplinary infractions with the officer, the date, and all of the statements from the officers. So let's see what she's really doing inside prison these days. From making schmexual comments to the COs to getting groped by fellow inmates, she's been written up quite a lot. This one's super long, but it has to do with the stealing, this right here. Basically, they shook her down and searched her stuff, and this was on September 4th, 2024. They found, there's a ton, so I'm just gonna state some of it. 29 bottles of paint, 1 bottle of wax, fake eyelashes, 1 neck scarf, 11 paint tubes, 20 plus rocks, homemade pillow, wire wrapped around pins, 3 boxes of Jell-O, tie-dyed bras and panties, 2 pairs of sunglasses, pink and purple rubber balloons, not inflated. Found a bunch of stuff that was stolen out of the kindwear unit that she did not work in. So they wrote her up for stealing and contraband. Mackenzie's statement about that when she went to her disciplinary hearing was, I did not steal anything. I got it from blank, the inmate, whoever gave it to her. I like to paint cups. She gave me the stuff. I paid $10 for each kindware. So basically she just told on the person that gave it to her. But yeah, so she was found guilty and was given 60 days commissary restriction and 60 days package restriction. They were not let her about to get some more stuff. Oh, this one's crazy. So this is about the video visitation write-up that she got written up for, and it was on September 22nd, 2025. On above date and time, I, Officer Miller, was reviewing via path visits. When selecting on IP blank, it was in fact not inmate blank, it was only inmate Shirilla. During these visit, multiple inappropriate things took place. The visit that took place at 6:06 p.m. at the 1524 Maker, Prison Shirilla shows her to the visitor. Then at 2108, the visitor shows a... Then lastly at 2253, the visitor shows her. Then on the visit at 742 at the 2401 marker, the visitor shows her with a sticking out of her pants twice. Then at 2517, the visitor sets the phone up and walks into the frame completely undressed. There was a total of 7 video visits taken place between inmate Shirilla and the visitor, all taken place on inmate account. So they were getting freaky on somebody else's account. Crazy. And for that one, she had nothing to say about that one. There was no statement, but her video visits got restricted for 60 days. She was found guilty. If you're wondering about the consensual schmexual one, that would be from this incident, and this was on August 1st, 2025. On August 1st, 2025, Officer Dennis was conducting a round on the 300 side of the unit at approximately 10:50 a.m. When I was in the 3rd bay, I saw inmate blank removing her hand from inmate Shirilla's buttocks region. For this reason, I am writing them for consensual schmexual. Let's see. Does she have any statements on that? She said, I did not allow her to touch me, and I've never had a schmex ticket, and this is not me. I don't do that kind of stuff. Anyway, she went to the hole for 7 days. They found her guilty. This one's crazy long, so I'm going to summarize it for you. It says, I approached Shirilla while she was in the case manager Jones' office to take her to the restroom to see if she was properly dressed. Shirilla was previously in Mr. Reen's office, and he had asked her for her hoodie, as it was altered, considered contraband. Inmate stated that she couldn't have it because she wasn't dressed properly under her hoodie. When I told her I was taking her in the restroom to make sure she was dressed properly so I could take her hoodie, she stated, if he got a... from the way I'm dressed, that's his fault. As she got to the door of Ms. Jones' office, she told Ms. Jones to come with us to the restroom because she didn't feel comfortable. When we got to the restroom, Shirilla unzipped her hoodie and her state shirt was completely unbuttoned with just a sports bra on. She was instructed to button her shirt and give me her altered hoodie. The whole time we were in the restroom, she was very disrespectful and talked with a loud tone, asking if this was all we were worried about was her altered jacket. This inmate has had several conduct reports for contraband clothing. She's been given new state uniforms in exchange for the altered clothes. Her hoodie was clearly taken on the sides and was very form-fitting. Mackenzie's statement on that said, I went to the bathroom with her. I never said that. I did what they told me. I was not being disrespectful. Anyway, she went to the hole for 14 days for that one. So yeah, that's just 4 of the many crazy write-ups that Shirilla's getting. I can keep going if you want because, like I said, there's 58 pages. Wild time she's having in there. Wild time. Let's look at Mackenzie Shirilla's disciplinary infractions, and I'm going to tell you what they probably are for and what they mean from somebody who was in prison with her and was at that prison and has a pretty good understanding of these write-ups. May 16th, 2024, she got written up for being out of place. Now that can be for a couple things. She either was not where she needed to be for count time, which happens 3 times a day, or she was in somebody else's dorm or unit, and usually that's not for a good reason. September 4th, 2024, stealing or embezzlement of property. Exactly that. I heard that she stole some beads from the bead room in her unit, which got her moved to another unit. All alleged. She was also written up for possession of contraband, including altered items. So she took something and either hemmed it to be more form-fitting, or she just messed around with something that was state issued. October 19th, 2024, possession of property of another incarcerated person. So she stole something from somebody. Or she had somebody's TV that had their name engraved on the back that a lot of people sell before they leave prison. And another contraband ticket. 11/11/2024, another contraband of altered items ticket. 2 days after that, on the 13th of November, disturbance of a direct order. So the COs were telling her to do something and she basically said, as well as destruction, alteration, or misuse of property. Exactly that. On November 16th and November 30th, she got 2 more being out of place tickets. And then on December 10th of 2024, she got a disturbance of a direct order again and another being out of place ticket. January 16th of 2025, she had a misuse of authorized medication. So she had some prescription that she was hoarding and they found it on her. She either was or selling it or whatever. Alleged. And another contraband ticket. She managed to stay out of trouble for the next 3 months, and on April 29th, she got a violation of visitation, including video visits. So something happened, either in a video visit or a real visitation, that was not allowed. I wonder who it was that was visiting her. The next day, Mackenzie got a sexual harassment ticket, disturbance of a direct order, and possession of contraband. Should I say more? May 1st, we've got a possession of contraband. July 15th, 2025, being out of place. 4 days later, she got an encouraging or creating a disturbance. So she was being reckless or egging somebody on to be reckless and obnoxious. July 23rd, being out of place. And to end this, on August 1st of 2025, she got a sexual conduct. Consensual, though. Needless to say, this is not the Mackenzie that I was in prison with. She was not doing any of this. She would be too scared. So prison's really gotten to her. All of these out-of-place tickets are probably her being in her little boo's dorm. That's not her dorm. So... And I want to know what all this contraband is. It can be from something really minuscule to something really crazy. All of this will be brought up at her parole hearing. And that's not a good look. That's a lot of write-ups to get in a short amount of time. Let's just get that established. Just crazy. Enough about Mackenzie Shirilla. Let's talk about her parents, because be so for real. Y'all know how I've told y'all that they've been literally funding her prison princess lifestyle. I mean, this started way before she went to prison. I mean, look at them in the documentary. Look at how they talk to each other on the jail calls. Like, what? First of all, what do you mean you're letting your 17-year-old... Yes, I think that she's mature enough to go live with her boyfriend. They were cooking dinner. Like, be so for real. This is a parenting issue. Not to mention that Mackenzie's dad literally was saying, and the boy had some money. He bought her nice things, and Mackenzie likes nice things. Wonder why. But also, that's weird in itself to say as a father. And then to say that you knew she was smoking and you were okay with it. Basically, as long as she's not smoking, you're cool with whatever she does. And then she gets in trouble for bullying. And you ask her if it happened, and you say, nope, all right, we're all good. And you're a teacher? You're a teacher. That's why you're on leave. And Natalie Shirilla, oh my God, talk about a nutcase. Which I already knew, since she's literally running her Cash App in prison and buying her whatever makeup, jewelry, limited edition clothes, altering her clothes so tight you can see her crack. But for you to get on the stand and think that you were helping your daughter in any way, and literally go up there and say, Davion was just a new friend. Like, what does that even mean? And I'm glad that the judge clocked you. See, that's why it's important to be a decent parent, because y'all literally paved her way into making her think she can do whatever she wants but do no wrong and suffer no consequences. And now look at her. And now she's doing it in prison because y'all still haven't changed y'all's parenting techniques. What? She's getting written up for everything under the sun. Now hear me out. You can love your children without enabling them. I'm a mother. I have a very supportive mother. But when I went to prison, I guarantee you she was not giving me everything that I want inside prison. She ordered me a box and it was all my necessities, things that I needed, and she made sure I had some extra food. If I called my mom and said, hey, can you cash out this person so I can get my pants altered, my mom would laugh in my face because what do you mean? Who are you trying to look good for? Aren't you in prison? You made the choices to get yourself there. Be so for real. Love ya. And I have mad respect for that because what do you mean? I did make the choices that landed me in prison. It is not anybody's responsibility to take care of me. I never once thought that my mom didn't love me. I never once thought that my family didn't want anything to do with me. They just prayed every day that I got better and they helped me with what they could from the outside. My family did not even pay for me an attorney. I had somebody else do it. And I wasn't going to ask them. My family helped with my daughter and, prayed for me. Because what? They're not the reason that I ended up there. I'm a grown woman who made grown woman choices and suffered some grown woman consequences. And Mackenzie did the same thing. I don't care. She was 17. Guess what? At 17, I knew it was wrong to run my car into a building at full speed. Did y'all? Because I feel like you are taught to know right and wrong. And clearly she wasn't by her bozo ass parents. Okay, some more on calling Mackenzie Shirilla out since I was in there with her. Never one time did I ever see Mackenzie Shirilla go for a blood pressure check, take any type of medication, or go to sick call, ever experience dizziness. In fact, Mackenzie Shirilla would go out in 100-degree heat waves with baby oil on her and sit on the prison yard and tan. So let's just get that understood. The girl does not have any medical issues. A lot of people in my life asked me, what do I mean by her voice seems different? She talked like your average, valley girl when I was in there with her. Now in this documentary, she's speaking like forced hood or slang because that is cool in prison. That is the more hood, the more gang, the more whatever you are, the more clout you have in prison. And Mackenzie wants clout in whatever way possible. Mackenzie has makeup and jewelry in prison because her mom is ordering it for her, and third-party vendors like Union Supply or Access, like Secure Back, and getting them packages sent in to the prison for her. So that's where she gets makeup, because we could get our loved ones to order makeup. Also, Mackenzie is on the prison princess, paper dolls, the prison sugar daddy websites that Gypsy Rose found Ryan and Ken on. Mackenzie is on those websites also, so there's sugar daddy supplying her needs. People asked me if Mackenzie ever showed remorse in prison. Mackenzie never cried the entire time I saw her in prison. Not one tear. So for her to sit in that documentary and say that she thought about it every day was bullshit. Also, props to that judge for stepping on Mackenzie's mama's neck during that victim impact statement, because what do you mean? She said Davion was a new friend. Oh, okay, so, yeah, no. And to answer another question, yes, Mackenzie has had multiple girlfriends in prison. She was walking around with on her neck, like hickeys on her neck in prison. She's gone to the hole for being intimate with girlfriends in prison. So if she was grieving or remorseful, she would not have gone to prison and jumped into prison relationships within the next 6 months. In fact, 2 of her former prison girlfriends follow me on this TikTok. One of them I've interviewed on my page. So also, that Rosie Graham girl, if y'all follow her, unfollow her, because she's delusional and she is just trying to get clout off of being a former friend of Mackenzie. Because what do you mean you would not? What do you mean Davion and Dom were your friends, but you wouldn't help the detectives figure out what happened, but you're so quick to agree to be on a Netflix documentary about it? I love how even the detective or prosecutor threw that in there. Because what? And no, Mackenzie Shirilla will not be granted parole on her first hearing. I can tell you that right now. She's getting flopped. I've got all 58 pages of Mackenzie Shirilla's prison disciplinary reports with the officer statements, the inmate statements, and everything in between. So let's jump into these. A lot of you guys wanted to know when Mackenzie's most recent write-up was, and that was actually on May 20th. Which was just a few weeks ago. It says, inmate Shirilla did not report to her assigned job in CFS, which, if you didn't know, is the chow hall. It's where you can go eat the meals that are served, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Due to her not working, she's being charged with rule violation 5.3. She also got written up for the same thing on May 9th, 2026. Her statement said, I thought I had a visit. She was found guilty, and they gave her 30 days bed restriction, which means you can't go on the yard. She also got written up for that on the 8th of May, but was found not guilty because her statement said, I was at the door waiting to go out, and they looked at the camera footage, and that was actually true. So she has a hard time getting up and getting to work. She also got written up on May 6th, 2026, for disrespect towards another person, including instigation of or perpetuating fighting, but it was found not guilty. It says the body of conduct report doesn't match camera footage. February 6, 2026, she got written up because she went to the case manager's office to ask her about a ticket or a write-up that she received and wouldn't leave, even though the case manager told her 4 times to leave. And so she wrote her up again. So at this point, it's really giving like the COs and the staff there are not with Shirilla. She got written up again because she went to go ask about write-ups. And on January 16th, 2025, she was written up for misuse of authorized medication and possession of another contraband, blah, blah, blah. And it says that a random bed search was conducted on inmate Shirilla's bunk. During search, a packet of unknown medication was found with the name of individual prescribed. Inmate Shirilla admitted to using the meds and that they weren't hers. Also, she had a personal photo of herself containing drug use. For this reason, she's being charged with blah, blah, blah. She was found guilty, but her inmate statement says it did not have drug use in it. The pills was prenatal vitamins I got from another. Prenatal vitamins. She was found guilty. 30 days bed restriction. Then let's run it back to October 19th, 2024. She got written up for possession of property of another incarcerated person, possession of any other contraband, blah, 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 blah. It says, on the above date and approximate time, I, Officer Bryce, was conducting my random bed searches. During my search on inmate Shirilla, I found 2 pairs of altered state pants, a fan with the name and number blank crossed out and Shirilla written on the same side, and 4 nude magazine pictures. For this, I will be charging her with a 12.3 and a 12.7. She was found guilty and put on 30 days commissary restriction. I don't know where she got those photos or those magazines. Also, her statement was that I did have the fan and pants was turned into the quartermaster and I was charged. But yeah. The majority of her write-ups are for like altered clothing or out of place, which not taking up for her by any means, but getting written up for out of place is really, really, really easy. In my opinion, it's really feeling like it's looking like the COs and the staff there don't hurt. And usually that's because they know you're up to no good, and so they just catch you for whatever is possible. It's better to just keep your head down and not be noticed.
I've heard a lot of people say that the Netflix documentary left out some details that they think are important, so let's just talk about the entire thing. We're talking about Mackenzie Shirilla. I have covered this case before, but it's been a while. Around 5:40 a.m. on July 31st, 2022, a horrible car crash took place in Strongsville, Ohio. It was in the early hours of a Sunday morning, meaning that not a lot of people were out and about and no one was there to call emergency services right away when the crash took place. It wouldn't be until after the car had run through the lawn, hit a sign, crashed into a brick building, and practically split in two that a witness would see the aftermath 45 minutes later and call it in. Inside the car were 3 people. 19-year-old Davian Flanagan was in the back seat, 20-year-old Dominic Russo was in the passenger seat, and 17-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla was the driver. Every single one of them was trapped inside, all of them unconscious. Davian, who was sitting in the back, had been thrown from the force of the crash, and he was found on Dominique's lap. Despite their best efforts, neither of them were able to be saved, and they were both pronounced deceased at the scene. It's believed that they passed away on impact. Mackenzie Shirilla had to be cut out of the car. She was found trapped underneath the dashboard. She had critical injuries, including a broken leg and broken ribs, and was light flighted to the hospital immediately, where she would go on to receive extensive care. As horrible as the car crash was, she did survive, and she would eventually recover from her injuries. At the scene, on an officer's body cam, you can hear him say, "Rest in peace, buddy," and then he says, quote, "This is just going to be a nightmare of a day for this whole department," end quote. The night prior, that friend group had all been together, and the plan of them was to have a sleepover. Yet for reasons we may never know, Mackenzie and Dom, after having been asleep, woke back up around 5 in the morning and decided to drive home. Those two were a couple. They had been dating for a few years, and Davion was a close friend of theirs. Davion had spoken to another friend who offered to drive him home, but he decided to get inside of that car because he just wanted to go home to go get some sleep. Obviously, he never made it back home. The reactions of the parents when they were informed were devastating. Davion was the oldest brother to his 2 little sisters. All 3 of them had been adopted by their parents. They called Davion's dad at work to let him know, and very quickly that entire family's world was turned upside down. Don's sister and Don's dad were completely in shock, and one of their immediate thoughts was concern for Mackenzie and hoping that she would make it. Mackenzie's parents drove and got to the hospital as soon as they could, and given that she was the only survivor, authorities wanted to speak to her when she was stable enough to see if they could get a statement from her. But when they got to the hospital, they were a little bit taken aback about how hesitant the Shirilla family was to speak to them. And there's something called Pig Latin, okay? The definition is, quote, "Pig Latin is a playful language game used to conceal words or talk secretly," end quote. So it's like a made-up language where you move the first consonant of a word to the end and add AY to the end of it. So for example, pig becomes igpay and Latin becomes at and lay. I guess it's a common thing for adults to use around their kids so that the kids do not understand what they're saying. Well, at the hospital, when they're informed that this is now going to be an investigation they have to look into, Mackenzie Shirilla is talking to her mom in this language or a very similar one. And in whatever language, you can hear her tell her mom, quote, "Can we tell the police I had a seizure? Can we tell the police?" something like that. Then she asks the officers if they could just take away her license for 10 years or something like that. So she is showing concern, but only for herself, right? So it kind of comes off as odd given that one of the victims was her close friend and the other one was allegedly the love of her life. The news of the crash spread quickly throughout Strongsville, and it seemed like people either thought one of two things: that this was a tragic, terrible accident, or that this was planned and done on purpose with the intent to murder. So like I said, Mackenzie Shirilla and Dominic Russo were a couple that was known to be constantly on and off. If you asked Mackenzie's parents what their relationship was like, they would tell you that they were in love, that they were soulmates, and that they probably would have gotten married. However, if you asked Dom's mom, who did know Mackenzie very, very well because they had spent a lot of time together, she would tell you that their relationship was toxic and unhealthy. And some, not all, but definitely some friends would agree with that as well. It was a common thing for Mackenzie and Dom to be constantly arguing. And Mackenzie is the type of girl that thinks it's my way or the highway. She has said that in her own words before. She was also extremely possessive over Dom, and more oftentimes than not, very controlling and very jealous. She was the type of girlfriend that would be like, "Oh, you want to break up with me? Well, that's too bad because I call the shots and I say that we are going to be together forever or else." Relationship aside, classmates have described her to be selfish and to carry around an ego that showed that she didn't really seem to care about anyone else but herself. The descriptions that multiple people have given make her sound reckless, self-centered, and insensitive. And some classmates have even said that they were not surprised about the crash at all because it sounded like something that Mackenzie Shirilla would do out of anger. This is a quote from Dom's older sister, quote, "From what I heard from his buddies and people that were close in their age, not that they saw the crash coming, but it wasn't a surprise for a lot of people based off her behavior and how she was," end quote. Mackenzie was also known to use substances daily and drive her car while doing so, which is extremely reckless yet important because it shows that she is more than capable of driving her car in that state, even though you shouldn't, but given that she pretty much did it every single day. So there were three possibilities. One, that maybe the night of the crash she had consumed a stronger substance that was found in her car that made her lose control, and she did black out and she did crash on accident. Yet, when the test results came back, there was nothing significant found in her system. The second option, two, that it was an accident as a result of POTS. POTS is a blood pressure disorder that Mackenzie had that can cause sudden dizziness, lightheadedness, and blackouts. But the question there is, if POTS was a real big safety concern, why would Mackenzie be allowed to drive at all? It was her mom that was arguing the most about this being the case, really making her concern for POTS known. Yet Mackenzie Shirilla was 17 years old. She had had her license for a while, but she was not an adult. And when she got her license, her nor her parents ever mentioned POTS at the DMV. Her mom signed off on allowing her daughter to have a license to be able to drive wherever, drive on the highway, because there was no real concern about her experiencing dizziness. To then argue that this is what happens when two people are gone, it feels convenient. Leaving the third option to be that Mackenzie got in a fight with her boyfriend, threatened him, and crashed into that building on purpose to end it all, without considering the consequences, without considering the many people that she would hurt, and without even giving a second thought to a person that she described to be her friend sitting in the back seat, Davion Flanagan. So as investigators start learning more about this couple and about what the dynamic of their relationship was, mixed with evidence from the crime scene along with CCTV footage that would later be revealed in court, things started to look pretty bad for Mackenzie. And officers had reason to believe that she could have been responsible for causing this tragedy on purpose, that purpose being death. And it didn't help her case when a friend of Dominic Russo spoke to authorities and told them about something that had happened previously. That friend had been on the phone with Dom during a fight with Mackenzie when he heard her say, quote, "I will crash this car right now," end quote. This wasn't the night of. This was a previous night, a previous incident when she did not go through with it, but she did mention that she would and that she could. Dominic's mother, Christine, had also been contacted by her son weeks before the crash, specifically because he was scared, because they were arguing again and Mackenzie was driving erratically on the freeway with Dominic in the car. That time he called his mom asking for help, but Mackenzie would claim that it was actually Dominic who would grab the steering wheel and try to crash the car, not her. We also know that at a different time, Mackenzie had threatened to key Dominic's car and to break off a handle off of a door after he refused to let her come inside. Into his house, by the way. All of this was evidence that authorities were gathering to say that this was part of a pattern of escalating controlling behavior in the weeks leading up to July 31st of 2022, and they believed that it formed an argument that the crash was not as a result of an accident, but instead the culmination of that pattern. But what really confirmed the suspicions they already had were the results of the tests that they received in regards to the car itself and the CCTV footage they were able to get their hands on. Because the only other option left, apart from the ones that I already mentioned, would have been that the car itself malfunctioned. Yet, when the car was taken apart piece by piece by experts, it was confirmed that every single thing in that car was working as it should have been, and this was not a result of any sort of mechanical error. There was nothing wrong with the car. But what the car data did show was that only seconds before the impact, Mackenzie inexplicably sped up and made a hard steering turn to the right directly into that brick building. She had been driving 25 miles an hour, and then in the span of 20 to 25 seconds, she sped up to 100 miles an hour. Data from the car confirmed that her right foot was pressed down on the accelerator to its full extent, pushing the car over 100 miles per hour, and that the brake pedal was never applied at any point before impact. Mackenzie's foot never touched the brake pedal. In those 20 to 25 seconds it took for her to speed up, her foot stayed solely on the accelerator the entire time. She had time to decide to slow down, but she did the opposite. And to go back to her diagnosis of POTS, if this had been accidental, if she blacked out and lost control of the car, authorities felt that that would have been shown in the way that she was driving. Yet on CCTV footage, before the car gets onto the road that it would speed down, Mackenzie is seen driving completely normal. Driving the speed limit, like I mentioned, 25 miles per hour, putting her blinker onto turn, turning carefully and normally, clearly in control of the car. Then 58 to 59 seconds later, she speeds up and does not try to stop. Authorities also uncovered GPS data that showed that Mackenzie had driven that exact route of the crash days before the incident multiple times, the route which was one that she did not usually take, which prosecutors cited as premeditation. This was calculated. It was not a road that she had any reason to be on. The fact that she had driven it beforehand suggested to the prosecution that she had scouted the location in advance. They also believe that she planned it to do it 2 days before her 18th birthday so that she could not be tried as an adult. So, combined with the prior threats, the prior route, the sharp right turn of the steering wheel, and the full acceleration, prosecutors argued that this was no medical episode. It was not an accident. It was not a moment of recklessness, and they were now confident that these were planned murders. On November 4th, Mackenzie Shirilla was arrested on multiple charges, including aggravated murder and aggravated vehicular homicide. And I saw someone say that during her arrest, specifically in the clips shown in that Netflix documentary, Mackenzie's only concern is not being able to wear her bracelets and keep them on while in custody, and her friend in the documentary argued that she wanted to keep those bracelets because Dom gave her the bracelets and they were the last things that she had from him. But in that same documentary, there are clips shown of how Dom showered Mackenzie with gifts. He would give her clothing and other items very often, which I doubt she threw away. So her friend's argument to me just kind of sounds a little bit irrelevant. And up until that point of her arrest, she had been in communication with Dom's family a lot. Dom's dad and sister had gone out of their way to spend time with Mackenzie, trying to help her as much as they could as she navigated the grief and the losing of her alleged love of her life and her friend. And in a text exchange between her and Dom's mother, Mackenzie wrote that she did not do anything on purpose. Christine says, quote, "What is the last thing that you remember?" To which she responds with, quote, "I remember turning on the street and then my vision fades to black. It really pains me not being able to remember anything. I promise I would tell you," unquote. Davion's family as well wanted to believe that this was an accident, yet everything changed after her arrest. She would remain in custody up until her trial, and despite her being 17 years old the day of and turning 18 2 days later, the court made the decision that she would be tried as an adult. Mackenzie's trial began August 7th of 2023. Now let's talk about evidence that was presented. But real quick, in the courtroom, she's shown wearing some sort of arm cast, right? There was no medical reason as to why she would have been needing to wear that. She was fine. She was just wearing it because she wanted to, I guess. I don't know. You decide. Anyway, first of all, CCTV footage of the crash was shown and it left the entire courtroom emotional. Davion's mom was sitting there and she watched it for the first time. She had to run to the bathroom because she got sick. She couldn't watch it. There were autopsy photos shown of both Davion and Dom, and during that, Dom's mom had to run out of the courtroom. Experts came up and testified about the gas pedal on the car, saying that it was pushed to its full acceleration capacity, pushed all the way down as far as it could go without any attempts to ever hit the brake. Also making sure to mention that 1 second before the crash, Mackenzie did a hard right turn on the wheel and into the brick building. There was evidence presented of Mackenzie's selfish and violent behavior, including a recording that Dom took of one of their arguments, where Mackenzie is heard threatening his property and calling him horrible names, and then the social media evidence. So following the accident, Mackenzie made it known on social media that she was grieving. She posted videos of her and Dominic saying things such as, quote, "I miss you, Nug. I still feel like you're just going to walk in the door any second. I miss your laugh, your perfect smile. God, you are the last person to deserve this. You had such a perfect life ahead of you. I wish I told you all this more. Please wait for me," end quote. And initially, a lot of people did feel bad for her until it almost seemed as if she was over it. She was grieving and heartbroken for about 5 minutes, and then she seemed to be completely fine. In the courtroom, there were screenshots shown of her activity on social media, screenshots of events that happened shortly after Mackenzie was released from the hospital after spending weeks there recovering, but obviously from before she was formally charged. Between that time period on social media, she and her mother were responding to a modeling agency in the comments of an Instagram post trying to work with them. Mackenzie was posting pictures of her friends out celebrating Halloween, dressing up as a corpse for Halloween, driving a car, and even attending a concert. And if you want my personal opinion, those are not signs of a person who is grieving and mourning, who just lost her boyfriend and good friend. Mackenzie's mother made a statement in the court. Don't even get me started. In my opinion, she made it so much worse for her daughter. Her mom went up there to talk about Mackenzie, trying to shut down any rumors or beliefs that she didn't care and that she wasn't mourning, which I get, right? I guess as a mother, you want to protect your daughter, but the lack of sympathy is actually insane, to the point that the judge interrupted her and said, quote, "I'm hearing an awful lot about your daughter. I'm not hearing very much about the 2 deceased people," end quote. The mom said, "I'm asking you for leniency because this was a tragic accident she does not remember. And Davion, he's a new friend and I'm so sorry." And the judge was like, "A new friend? What does that mean? His life is worthless?" It was bad. Mackenzie would have been better off if she just told her mom to sit down, honestly. At her sentencing, the judge said, quote, "There's only one person who's responsible for the pain of everyone in this room. That person is you, Mackenzie. Nobody else is responsible. This isn't the fault of Dominic's family or Davion's family or your family." Mackenzie was found guilty and she was sentenced to 2 sentences of 15 years to life to be served concurrently. She will be 34 years old by the time that she's eligible for parole for the first time. Also, following the release of The Crash on Netflix, the Netflix Netflix documentary on May 15th, Steve Shirilla, Mackenzie's father, was placed on administrative leave from his job. He works for a school in Cleveland and was placed on leave after the school received comments and allegations about his conduct and moral position as seen in the documentary. The school issued a statement saying, quote, "We are investigating allegations made on social media that one of our teachers has demonstrated poor judgment. Upon learning of the allegation, the school acted immediately and placed that teacher on administrative leave," end quote. That's all. Let me know your thoughts on this. I am very curious to know all of your opinions, so I will be in the comment section. Thank you for spending time with me today. I hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.